Ooh, do you feel the breeze from the subway? Isn't it delicious?
Hollywood, both in its early days and even now, is a place mired in scandal and disrepute. It's as if from the very beginning, the glitz and glamour served as a thin surface layer, concealing the filth and vice lurking just beneath the facade.
Thump, thump, thump went my heartstrings. When he smiled, I could feel a car shake.
Number 20. The Black Box. Shirley Temple, the darling of Hollywood's golden era, painted a disturbing picture of what life was like for child actors during her time. In her autobiography, Child Star, Temple revealed a chilling punishment known as the Black Box. Between 1934 and 1938, Shirley Temple was one of the most prominent child actors in Hollywood. Her trademark ringlet curls and charming demeanor catapulted her into the limelight. However, Temple's journey into stardom had a dark side. She once described her early performances as a cynical exploitation of our childhood innocence, yet acknowledged that her success might not have been possible without it. But what exactly was the Black Box? Historian John Cassan shed light on the harsh conditions that child actors faced on the set of baby burlesques. He wrote, "To threaten and punish uncooperative child actors, the director, Charles Lamont, kept a soundproof black box 6 feet on each side containing a block of ice. An offending child was locked within this dark, cramped interior and either stood uncomfortably in the cold, humid air or had to sit on the ice. Those who told their parents about this torture were threatened with further punishment." So, Shirley Temple, with her innocent appearance and big, expressive eyes, was subjected to horrific treatment during the early days of Hollywood. Being a child star is challenging and traumatic enough, which might explain why Temple chose to retire from film acting at the young age of 22. Number 19. Fake snow. Before the era of artificial snow sprays, Hollywood filmmakers had to get creative when it came to creating those picturesque, snowy scenes. They turned to an unexpected source: asbestos, a heat-resistant, fibrous mineral. In the early days of cinema, asbestos snow added a touch of magic to films, particularly enchanting younger audiences. This innovation allowed filmmakers to create the illusion of snow on screen, captivating moviegoers. However, what filmmakers didn't realize at the time was the hidden danger associated with asbestos. In the early 1920s, cotton batting was the material of choice for creating artificial snow on set. But in 1928, a firefighter raised concerns about the fire hazards posed by cotton batting. He suggested that chrysotile, commonly known as white asbestos, could be a safer alternative. Hollywood eagerly adopted this idea, and asbestos began to be used as fake snow in classic films. However, what seemed like a blessing turned out to be a curse. Little did filmmakers know that the chrysotile snow they sprinkled on sets was lethal. Numerous medical studies later confirmed that when inhaled or ingested, asbestos could cause at least 9 serious diseases, some of which could ultimately lead to death. Number 18. A diet to die for. In the glitzy world of Hollywood, appearances were everything, and studios spared no effort to ensure their actors maintained a svelte figure. Perhaps the most notorious case was that of Judy Garland, who, as a teenager, was put on an MGM-mandated diet that could only be described as a diet to die for. Her daily sustenance consisted of little more than soup, coffee, and cigarettes. To compensate for this starvation regimen, she was supplied with a steady stream of medication to keep her energy levels up. Then there's the story of tenor-turned-actor Mario Lanza, who signed with MGM in the late 1940s. Lanza enjoyed a string of successful musicals that spawned million-selling hits. However, he struggled with overeating and drinking, resulting in weight issues throughout his Hollywood career. Lanza resorted to crash diets whenever it was time to film, shedding pounds rapidly, only to pile them back on once shooting was complete. This unhealthy cycle led to numerous health problems and forced him to cancel multiple concerts and live appearances. By the late 1950s, Lanza had relocated to Rome to shoot films and perform concerts throughout Europe. But the familiar pattern of needing to lose weight emerged once again. To achieve this, he checked into a clinic and reportedly underwent a dangerous procedure known as twilight sleep. Under heavy sedation, he was fed intravenously. Sadly, Lanza's body couldn't endure this punishing routine any longer. He suffered a sudden heart attack in 1959, leading to an unsubstantiated rumor that the mafia might have been involved due to a concert deal gone awry. Number 17. The Fixers. In the shadowy corridors of Hollywood, there existed an enigmatic duo known as the Fixers. two men who made the scandals of Hollywood stars disappear. As the head of publicity for MGM, Howard Strickling played a key role in managing these potentially scandalous affairs for the studio stars. Alongside him was Eddie Mannix, the general manager of MGM, and together, they maintained the meticulously crafted images of the studio's movie stars from the 1930s through the 1960s. Their mission: keep damaging stories out of the press or make those stories vanish without a trace. Mannix and Strickling might have seemed like an unlikely pair. Mannix, a man who had ties with mobsters and construction experience at an amusement park, was discovered by film executive brothers Nick and Joseph Schenck. Strickling, on the other hand, was a former journalist with a dapper appearance who made the transition to MGM publicity in 1919. Despite their differences, they were a formidable team and were responsible for quashing almost every imaginable tabloid story, as revealed in E.J. Fleming's book, The Fixers. When Hollywood actresses like Jean Harlow, Judy Garland, Lana Turner, and countless others found themselves facing unplanned pregnancies, Mannix and Strickling swung into action, arranging hasty abortions for them. These were carried out under false names and even false ailments. For example, Jeanette MacDonald had an ear infection as cover. They were well aware of actor Spencer Tracy's struggles with alcoholism, and Strickling even assigned an entire Tracy squad, complete with a driver, a doctor, and 4 attendants who were, in reality, security guards. But when stars deemed difficult resisted the assistance of Strickling and Mannix, the Fixers didn't hesitate to throw them under the bus. When closeted actor Nils Astor refused to maintain his sham marriage to vaudeville actress Vivian Duncan any longer, Strickling approved a 1933 article in Screenland magazine that questioned why Astor did not live with his wife and child, heavily implying the problem was not extramarital dalliances with women. Astor was swiftly fired in the aftermath. Number 16. Toxic makeup. We all cherish the classic Hollywood movie The Wizard of Oz, where we follow Dorothy, played by Judy Garland, on a whimsical adventure in the land of Oz. Along her journey, she meets the Scarecrow, Ray Bolger, the Tin Man, originally Buddy Ebsen, later Jack Haley, and the Cowardly Lion, Bert Lahr. However, what many might not know is that the making of this beloved film was, in fact, a horror story, with makeup that made the actors sick. Creating a magical world in the 1930s presented significant challenges, and one of the most problematic aspects of making The Wizard of Oz was the disastrous costumes and makeup. Buddy Ebsen was originally cast as the Tin Man in the movie, but just 9 days into filming he was hospitalized after being poisoned by the copious amounts of aluminum dust he was covered in every day. After Ebsen's hospitalization, he was replaced by Jack Haley, who endured his own makeup-related woes. The makeup team used a mixture of aluminum powder and paste, which they painted on the actor. Haley quickly developed an eye infection that required medical treatment. Margaret Hamilton, who played the Wicked Witch of the West, had her share of struggles as well. She suffered severe burns during filming, and the makeup team had to swiftly remove her copper makeup to prevent it from seeping into her wounds. Number 15. Cursed films. The Misfits is a legendary film not just for its story, but also because of the tragedies that befell its 3 major cast members during and after production. Clark Gable, the iconic actor, tragically died of a heart attack only days after the film wrapped. Marilyn Monroe's marriage to Arthur Miller, who wrote the role as a serious vehicle for her, fell apart, and she met a sad end 1 year later due to an overdose. Meanwhile, co-star Montgomery Clift, though not an immediate casualty, reportedly refused to watch the film again just hours before his death from a heart attack years later. And there's another cursed film, Rebel Without a Cause. This cinematic classic, led by James Dean, Sal Mineo, and Natalie Wood, delved into the world of teenage outcasts grappling with generational conflict. Each of these 3 lead actors met untimely ends. James Dean's life was cut short in a tragic head-on car collision, occurring just a month before the film's release. In the 1970s, Sal Mineo met a gruesome end when he was stabbed to death by a mugger outside his apartment. The most mysterious demise was that of Natalie Wood, who reportedly drowned during a boat trip with her husband, Robert Wagner, and their friend Christopher Walken. Her lifeless body was found a mile from the boat, but the autopsy also revealed bruises on her. Wagner admitted they had an argument that night but maintained his innocence in her death. Number 14. An obsession turned dangerous. Stalkers and deranged fans have always been a grave concern for celebrities. In the world of entertainment, we've seen tragic cases like John Lennon, Selena, and Dimebag Darrell, who were killed by individuals obsessed with them. But it's not just a modern problem. Even during the golden age of Hollywood, stars had to grapple with dangerous obsessions. One such incident took place in 1939 and involved none other than the iconic Shirley Temple, who had a close call with a stalker. At the tender age of 10, Shirley was performing Silent Night on a live radio show when a woman attempted to assassinate her. Thankfully, quick action from others at the scene subdued the would-be assassin in the nick of time. The motivations behind this shocking act were as tragic as they were twisted. The woman's obsession stemmed from the belief that her daughter had passed away on the very day, supposedly the same hour, that Shirley Temple was born. She became fixated on the idea that her daughter's soul was trapped in the child star's body, and the only way to set it free was by killing Shirley. Surprisingly, Shirley Temple expressed sympathy for her would-be killer, stating in her autobiography that the story seemed understandable to her. Number 13. When you're sick, you're out. Mental illness is a complex issue that remains poorly understood even today. In the 1940s, Hollywood stars struggling with mental health problems often became fodder for tabloids. Frances Farmer is a prime example. A talented stage actress, Farmer made her Hollywood debut in 1936 and enjoyed a string of successful films throughout the following decade. However, as the 1940s progressed, the media increasingly focused on reports of her erratic behavior rather than her career. In January 1943, Farmer was sentenced to 6 months in jail after a courtroom outburst in which she assaulted 2 police officers and threw an inkwell at the judge. Following her jail term, Farmer was transferred to a sanitarium where she received the diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia. She had multiple stays in psychiatric hospitals, and after years of struggle, she made a modest comeback on television before her passing in 1970. But that's not the end of the story. In 1978, William Arnold published an account of Frances Farmer's life in a book titled Shadowland, in which he claimed that she had undergone a lobotomy during her institutionalization. The book was later adapted into an award-winning movie, Frances, which added substantial weight to the lobotomy legend that still lingers today. What's less known is that Arnold later sued the production company and admitted in court that his account, including the lobotomy story, was fictionalized. Number 12. A youthful indiscretion. Joan Crawford's life in Old Hollywood was marked by both success on-screen and a fair share of off-screen drama. Her notorious rivalry with fellow screen icon Bette Davis, her role as chairman of the board for Pepsi-Cola Company, allegations of abuse from her daughter Christina, and even rumors of a pre-fame porno made her a Hollywood legend. The alleged early pornography involving Crawford was in the form of stag films. The most commonly cited title attributed to Crawford is The Casting Couch. However, there are no known copies or official records confirming its existence. While a small number of photographs claiming to depict Crawford in stag films exist online, the reality of The Casting Couch remains shrouded in mystery. Legend has it that such a film not only existed, but was also used to blackmail Crawford. In response, she enlisted the help of MGM, and the studio dispatched its fixers to track down and destroy every copy of the film. Another version of the story suggests that MGM may have kept one copy to exert leverage over Crawford. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence comes from Crawford's first husband, Douglas Fairbanks Jr. He reportedly claimed that Joan had told him about the movie before they got married. However, Fairbanks had never actually seen the film, and Joan remained tight-lipped about the details. Number 11. A Mother's Secret. In Old Hollywood, the birth of children out of wedlock was a significant taboo. Movie studios often pressured their starlets to have abortions to avoid scandal. Loretta Young, a prominent actress of the time, found herself in this situation when she became pregnant and gave birth to Judy Lewis in 1935. To conceal the pregnancy, Young took a vacation to England where she delivered Judy. Subsequently, Young transferred her daughter to an orphanage and later adopted her herself, a secret she maintained for years. The real bombshell in this story is the identity of Judy's father, Clark Gable. This fact remained concealed from Judy throughout his lifetime, but it was an open secret in Hollywood. Judy discovered the truth in her 30s when she confronted her mother. An even more shocking revelation came to light in 2015, courtesy of Linda Lewis, Loretta Young's daughter-in-law. She claimed that in 1998, Young confessed to her that Gable had harmed her. Until then, Young had been unable to acknowledge it, as her Catholic upbringing led her to believe she was at fault for allowing a man to have his way with her. According to Linda, she kept this revelation private until both Loretta and Judy had passed away. Number 10. Impossible contracts. The glamorous facade of Hollywood often concealed the harsh reality that many stars faced. Unlike today, where agents and lawyers represent stars in their dealings with production companies, the old Hollywood studio system exerted full control over the lives of its stars. This included making them work unreasonable hours, imposing personal demands, and in some cases, even encouraging drug use to enhance productivity, all under the shadow of oppressive contracts and severe penalties. These strict contracts, morality clauses, and minimal child labor laws allowed studio bosses to drive child stars at an exhausting pace. Judy Garland, for instance, worked grueling schedules of 6 days a week, sometimes enduring 18-hour shifts filled with constant singing and dancing to churn out as many movies as possible. To maintain her energy and keep her weight in check, the studios provided her with pep pills, amphetamine uppers, to keep her perky and alert throughout the day. When she couldn't sleep, they supplied her with sleeping pills. In 1941, at the age of 19, Garland married composer David Rose, an action that MGM disapproved of. They ordered her back to work within 24 hours of the wedding. When she became pregnant, her mother, Ethel, worked with the studio to arrange for an abortion, as the innocent image of little Dorothy, beloved by the public, wasn't ready to be seen as a mother, a grown-up. MGM also manipulated Garland's public image. When she gained weight, they made her take more speed, while press representatives told magazines that she ate like a truck driver. Her persona was not her own, and she had little time to discover herself outside the movies. This wasn't an isolated case. The star system created many leading actors and actresses and then discarded them when their popularity waned or left them financially destitute. Child star Shirley Temple, for example, was discovered in 1932 and cast in sexually suggestive baby burlesques as a baby acting out flirtatious bar and dance scenes. Misbehaving children were locked in windowless sound rooms with nothing but a block of ice to sit on as punishment. In her autobiography, Child Star, Temple wrote, "Its lesson of life, however, was profound and unforgettable. Time is money. Wasted time means wasted money, means trouble." Fortunately, those days are long gone, and while Hollywood stars today face different challenges, the oppressive studio system is no longer one of them. Number 9. Gossip columnists. Hollywood studios not only controlled their actors, but also manipulated the media in an effort to make headlines. They would strategically leak information about their actors and actresses, create scandals, and invent affairs, all with the aim of promoting upcoming films. They often worked in conjunction with gossip columnists, who eagerly reported on the juicy gossip fed to them by studio executives. Today, social media and the paparazzi industrial complex provide instantaneous and extensively detailed updates on the private lives of celebrities. The public has become more cynical about how the cinematic industry works, thanks to the plethora of backstage exposés in the form of tell-all books, documentaries, and sensational accounts of Tinseltown decadence. Karina Longworth, a veteran film critic, dedicated an entire season to uncovering the real stories behind tabloid classics, including Hollywood Babylon, which fueled many rumors about former big stars that eventually became mythologies. While not saints or icons, gossip columnists like Luella Parsons and Hedda Hopper were eventually paid propagandists for powerful studio heads who aimed to recoup their investments. Since movie stars are more easily mythologized in the pre-war years, and movies retained an exotic allure, cultivating their public image was a necessary part of the studio's marketing strategy. Number 8. Every news is good news. In the golden age of Hollywood, being in the newspaper was a surefire way to gain free publicity. So the studios actively fed gossip columnists with stories, whether they were positive or negative. One famous example of this strategy was the notorious feud between two legendary actresses, Joan Crawford and Bette Davis. When Davis first arrived in Hollywood, Crawford was already a well-established star. Their feud ignited when Crawford, on the very day a big article about Davis was set to be published, announced her divorce. This strategic timing cast a shadow over Davis's coverage and had a detrimental impact on her ticket sales. The feud between Crawford and Davis escalated, and it became a battlefield for gossip columns. It was during this time that Davis delivered her famous quote about Crawford, stating that she slept with every male star at MGM except Lassie. This feud not only provided sensational headlines, but also elevated both actresses' public profiles, demonstrating the power of media manipulation during that era. Number 7. Who's marrying for love? In the old Hollywood era, similar to the societal norms prevalent in Western civilization at the time, People who identified as LGBTQ+ often faced significant challenges. Despite some individuals rising to high positions in the entertainment industry, they lived in fear of losing their success and livelihood due to their non-heterosexual orientations. To conceal their sexual preferences and to meet the expectations of their agents or reputable studios, some actors and actresses resorted to marriages of convenience with partners of the opposite sex. These unions were referred to as lavender marriages. The term lavender was used to symbolize homosexuality before the 21st century, so these marriages were an attempt to appear heterosexual. However, many of these marriages ultimately failed, and their true purposes, to feign heterosexuality, became apparent. As a result, the term lavender wedding came into existence to describe such sham weddings where individuals entered into partnerships solely to avoid arousing suspicions about their true sexual orientation. These unions were more about protecting their careers than about love or genuine romantic commitment. Number 6. The dangers of the action star. Before the likes of Dwayne Johnson, Tom Cruise, Steve McQueen, or Tyrone Power, there was action star Wallace Reed. Reed built his career by performing his own stunts and portraying daredevils in films like The Roaring Road. However, everything changed in 1919 when a fateful accident occurred on the set of The Valley of the Giant. This accident caused Reed to suffer excruciating pain, ultimately leading him down a dark path of morphine addiction. During these times, rehabilitation was considered an unacceptable scandal, so the studio decided to conceal Reed's substance abuse issue. They did their best to keep his addiction out of the public eye. However, the situation continued to worsen, and Reed's health deteriorated. In a last-ditch effort to help him, the studio finally sent him to a sanitarium to address his addiction. Unfortunately, by this point, it was a little too late. Reed's withdrawal from morphine led to a heart attack, which tragically took his life. Number 5. Romance is different in Hollywood. Ingrid Bergman, renowned for her talent and unforgettable performances in classic films like Casablanca and Murder on the Orient Express, was considered a legendary actress during her lifetime. However, her wholesome cinematic persona took a hit when a scandalous revelation rocked society. The scandal emerged when it was revealed that she had begun an affair with director Roberto Rossellini, while both were still married to other people. To complicate matters further, Bergman became pregnant with Rossellini's child, leading to the dissolution of their respective marriages. The pair eventually divorced in the 1950s, despite the damage the affair did to Bergman's reputation. Surprisingly, despite the turmoil in her personal life and the scandal that ensued, Ingrid Bergman's acting career not only endured, but continued to thrive. Later in her career, she even won another Academy Award, enhancing her fame as a Hollywood icon. Number 4. Loyalty was the best policy. During Hollywood's golden age, actors were often under strict, long-term contracts with specific film studios, which had both benefits and drawbacks. These contracts provided financial security and a guaranteed flow of work, but they also required a high level of loyalty, which limited the artistic range of A-list actors. In rare instances, actors were allowed temporary releases, known as loan-outs, to work with other studios on specific films. However, these arrangements were closely monitored by their primary studio to ensure that actors maintained a positive image. One notable case of such freedom was Elizabeth Taylor, who remained under contract with MGM until 1960, but had the liberty to take on a variety of projects with other studios. These projects often explored more daring and unconventional themes, such as extramarital pregnancies, homosexuality, and cannibalism, revealing a different side of the actress beyond her work with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. However, this level of freedom was an exception rather than the rule for most Hollywood stars. In reality, actors were bound by their contracts and tightly controlled by the studios. Deviating from the studio's wishes could have severe consequences, including being blacklisted from the industry. For example, Olivia de Havilland, best known for her role in Gone with the Wind, had been under contract with Warner Brothers since 1935 and became disenchanted with the limited and shallow characters she was offered. As a result, she began refusing the roles the studio assigned to her. The repercussions of her actions were severe. For years, de Havilland was effectively excluded from the industry. Warner Brothers executives spread the word to other studios not to hire her due to her perceived difficult attitude, all because she wanted a minimal amount of choice in the roles she took on. Behind the glittering facade of Hollywood, stars often faced a tense and uncomfortable reality behind the scenes. Number 3. You can't refuse roles. During the heyday of the studio system, actors had limited control over the roles they played, and it was virtually unheard of for them to refuse a part. Doing so often carried severe consequences, making it a risky choice. This was a period when actors were bound by strict, long-term contracts with their respective studios, which dictated the roles they would undertake. Even legendary actresses like Bette Davis found themselves in precarious situations. Davis was suspended by Warner Brothers for turning down roles. She, like many others, was trapped in binding agreements, leaving her with little say in the roles assigned to her. Many actors chose to comply with the studio's wishes out of fear of losing their jobs, even if it meant taking on roles that were beneath their talents. However, Olivia de Havilland took a different path. She was signed by Warner Brothers in 1935 and, like many of her peers, received roles that she found unfulfilling. De Havilland refused to accept these roles, a move that was virtually unheard of in the 1930s and 40s. Her decision incited the wrath of studio bosses, who immediately suspended her from their set without pay. The suspension came during the height of de Havilland's career when she was still under 30. By choosing to stand up for her principles, de Havilland lost a significant amount of money, fame, and influence. Nevertheless, she remained resolute in her stance and was determined to challenge the unjust system. De Havilland leveraged her legal knowledge, provided by her attorney father, and took Warner Brothers to court. After a protracted legal battle, she emerged victorious in 1943 when the Labor Code Section 2855, known as the de Havilland Law, was enacted. This law introduced the 7-year rule on contracts, which helped dismantle the studio system. It meant that actors were no longer bound to studios for an indefinite period and could regain control over their careers. While 7 years was still a substantial commitment, it marked a significant step towards breaking the stranglehold of the studio system. De Havilland's courage and legal victory were instrumental in challenging the control studios had over their stars, but the life of Hollywood stars remained challenging in many respects. Number 2. Weight was everything. During Hollywood's golden era, the leading ladies were expected to maintain slim and attractive figures, and gaining weight was strictly forbidden by the studios. Contracts often included clauses that prohibited actresses from putting on extra pounds, and new talents were put under rigorous scrutiny by studio executives. They were sometimes subjected to examinations alongside dietitians. The studio's expectations regarding weight were not kept secret and were often communicated in a harsh and cruel manner. For instance, Louis B. Mayer, an executive at MGM, famously referred to Judy Garland as a fat little pig with pigtails. Mayer insisted that Garland follow a diet that primarily consisted of chicken soup, black coffee, cigarettes, and pills to control her weight. Swedish actress Greta Garbo, who arrived in Hollywood in the 1920s, faced similar expectations. She was allegedly told by a producer that American audiences don't like fat women. In response to this statement, Garbo adopted a strict diet of eating only spinach for an extended period. In addition to watching their weight, female actors of that era were also required to maintain an active lifestyle. A notable example of this is Marilyn Monroe, who engaged in weightlifting, an unconventional practice for actresses at the time. Monroe mentioned in an interview with Pageant in 1952 that she spent at least 10 minutes each morning working out with lightweight dumbbells. Like many female stars of her day, she felt endless pressure to stay thin and would go to great lengths to do it, no matter the physical toll on her body. Number 1. Get ready to be spied on. During Hollywood's golden era, when big money was at stake, studio executives sought to maintain tight control over their productions. To ensure efficiency and productivity, they resorted to extensive surveillance, including hiring spies to monitor the behavior of the industry's biggest stars. These spies often posed as regular staff members, such as janitors, drivers, or catering waiters, making it nearly impossible for celebrities to suspect they were being watched around the clock. In some of the most invasive cases, even trusted individuals like Judy Garland's assistant, Betty Asher, were employed to spy on the star for extended periods. Asher would provide weekly reports to MGM, detailing whom Garland was spending time with, her eating habits, and her activities outside the set. When Garland eventually discovered Asher's true role, she was deeply hurt and devastated, recalling that she cried for days upon learning the truth. However, it wasn't just actors who faced this scrutiny. Hollywood was a massive industry, and studio bosses went to great lengths to oversee every aspect of their productions. Movie directors were assigned to keep a watchful eye on various production employees, including line producers, production assistants, script clerks, and sound and picture staff. Suspicion and distrust permeated nearly every Hollywood production, as the studios aimed to ensure they received maximum service from every day of shooting on set. Remember, Hollywood's golden age wasn't all glamour. It had its dark side too. If you found this journey through Hollywood secrets as fascinating as we did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fascinating content. If you've got any questions, comments, or stories to share about old Hollywood, drop them down below. We'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.